If you'd like to make more empowering financial decisions in your private practice and your personal life, then today's video is for you. Finance can be overwhelming and complex, but at its heart, it's actually very simple. If you understand that all of finance is really all about answering a simple question, if you understand that simple question, the world of finance starts to look a whole lot clearer. Hey, I'm Dave. I'm a financial planner and founder of Turning Point Financial Life Planning, where we use the tools of financial planning to help therapists lead more authentic, balanced, and abundant lives. If you're new here, be sure and click on that subscribe button. In today's video, we're going to do two things. First, we're going to demystify, at least a little bit, the world of finance by showing you that it's really all about answering one simple question. Second, we'll use that simple question to help you better understand your private practice's profit and loss statement. All right, let's jump in. All right, so I have great news. Finance is actually very simple. I know it doesn't seem that way, but everything in the financial world comes back to a single simple question. And everything in the financial world is either trying to better answer that question or improve the answer or outcome of that question. All right, so here it is. All finance does is look at how much money is coming in, subtracts how much money is going out, and that tells you whether you have a surplus or a deficit. That's it. That's all finance is ever about. Is there more money coming in or going out? If you have $100 coming in and $50 going out, you have a $50 surplus. Congrats. If you have, again, $100 coming in and $150 going out, you have a $50 deficit. So what is this simple equation really? Well, it goes by a number of different names. It's the profit and loss statement. It's also known as the income statement. We could also think of this as a cash flow statement. But for now, let's just call it the profit and loss statement, or P&L, since that's easy to say. So if we think about this P&L as encompassing your entire life, that's pretty simple. We're simply looking at all the money you have coming into your life from any source, including earnings from your private practice, and then looking at all the money flowing out of your life for whatever reason or for whatever purpose. And while that is pretty simple, at least theoretically, it's not super useful because it has everything from every source and every time period all mixed together. It's pretty much impossible to make heads or tails of what's happening. And so to make the P&L more useful, we begin to segment, categorize, or split it up in different ways. One obvious way to split or segment the P&L is to create two different statements, one for your private practice and one for your personal life. Another way we split the P&L up is by segmenting different time periods, so we can see what's happening each year, for instance. And then we could further divide a year into different quarters. And we could divide those quarters into months, and then, well, again, you get the idea. Again, the reason we're splitting or segmenting the P&L is to make it more usable, more understandable. If I have more money going out than coming in, I need to change something. By looking at a reasonably small time period, I can more easily see where and when I'm spending more money than I intend. So if I notice that, say, in the month of December, I have a lot of money flowing out of my business, I need to look a bit deeper to understand exactly what is happening. And that brings us to the other way we can expand the P&L, which is to expand what I'll call the line items. I think of this as a vertical expansion, whereas expanding the P&L over different time periods is more of a horizontal expansion. So what am I talking about with this vertical expansion of line items? Well, let's go back to our core equation and see how we could modify and expand the line items if we were looking at the P&L of your private practice. For starters, the money coming into your business, we'll call that revenue. There are a few other names you might hear that are synonymous with revenue, such as sales, gross income, or gross receipts. But we'll stick with revenue because I think that's the least ambiguous term. It's the clearest. All right, so the top line of our P&L is revenue. That represents all the different way money flows into your business. In your private practice, the primary revenue will likely be from clients paying your session rate. And what about that money flowing out? Well, we can break that down into two big buckets. First, business expenses, and second, taxes. All right, so let's move on to a clean sheet here. Again, our top line is revenue. From revenue, we'll subtract all the business expenses that you incur. So whatever costs you have to run your business, like rent, licensing fees, software, advertising costs, whatever expenses you incur, anything to keep your practice up and running, we're going to deduct those here as business expenses. What's left over after we subtract all those expenses are your earnings before taxes. Then, of course, we have to subtract out taxes, and that leaves you with net income. Net income is the amount of money that flows out of your business to you. So let's return to that business expenses line item for just a moment. You will sometimes hear business expenses described as deductions or write-offs. These two terms are used primarily to highlight the fact that these expenses reduce the amount you owe in income tax. Why is that? Well, because these expenses, deductions or write-offs, reduce the earnings before taxes number. And earnings before taxes is the amount on which your income tax is based. The higher your earnings before taxes, the higher your income tax will be. All right, so before we wrap up, allow me to go on a brief tirade against the word income. I just want to urge you to be careful when using or seeing the word income because I think it's a really ambiguous term. Are we talking about gross income, income before taxes, or net income? It honestly isn't clear. And you will run into the word income used by itself all over the place. I've even seen it in QuickBooks, and I found that usage to be just really perplexing. I had to investigate what they were even talking about before I could proceed with using the software. Anyway, the bottom line here is anytime you see the word income without a descriptive adjective in front of it, take a moment to clarify what is meant. And this is a great time just to mention one of the best questions you can ask when working with a financial professional is, what do you mean? I also love it when people say they don't understand. Never be shy about pushing for clarity and additional explanation. Okay, so that concludes this video on the foundational question finance seeks to answer. Any financial report you see is in some way seeking to answer this fundamental question. Is there more money coming in than going out? Is there a surplus or is there a deficit? The way that question is answered in your private practice is with a profit and loss statement. In future videos, we will tie a ton of concepts back to this P&L idea, so it's really important to understand this foundation. And one especially important point I want you to remember is that when calculating your income taxes, when thinking about your income taxes, the only number that matters is that earnings before taxes number. No matter how high or low your revenue, until you deduct your business expenses, you won't know how high or low your income tax burden will be. All right, so that's it for today's video. I hope it's been helpful and helped to begin demystifying some elements of the world of finance and to help you better understand your private practice P&L. At the end of the day, finance can be complex, it can be confusing and overwhelming, but it really is all about just answering that simple question. Is there a surplus or is there a deficit? And if there's a deficit or the surplus isn't as big as we'd like, either in your personal life or in your private practice, what can we do about that? How can we make your situation better? That's really all this finance stuff is about. I would love to hear from you guys. What did you think of today's video? How can I improve content like this? Let me know what made sense and what was unclear. And also let me know if there's any other topics or areas you'd like me to cover in videos like this. Would absolutely love to hear from any and all of you. You can always reach me at dave@turningpointhq.com. Equally, feel free to schedule a 30-minute complimentary meeting. You can do that by clicking on the Start Here button on my website at turningpointhq.com. quickstart.com. Thank you again for taking the time with me. Again, be sure and click on that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.